Hello, my name is Carlishan bin Ahmad, matrix number BB233060969, and I will present my part, which is part 1. So, in part 1, we will construct a parade graph or chart to compare the relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency between the two key performance indicators, which is production cost and profit margin. Next, this is the data that we already divided from the 30 company based on frequency, relative frequency, cumulative frequency, and cumulative relative frequency based on production cost and profit margin. As we can see at the production cost graph, the highest data that we get is at 20 until 40, which is the relative frequency is 0.333, and the relative frequency for profit margin, the highest at 25 until 30, and the lowest are 0 at 0 until 15 company. Next, this is the line graph for cumulative relative frequency of production cost and profit margin. As we can see at production cost, the lowest value is at 0.1000 at the number of manufacturing company between 0 until 20, while the cumulative relative frequency of profit margin, the lowest value that you can see here are 0 at 0 until 15 number of company, and the highest at 30 until 35 number of company, which is the value R1.
So hello, my name is Laila. So I'm going to continue for part 2, which is I need to calculate and compare measures of central location between the two key performance indicator, which is production cost and profit margin. So there are three primary measures of central tendency, which is mean, median, and mode, and each of these offering unique insights into the data characteristic. So first of all, I'm gonna start with mean. So you can get mean by summing all the values in a data set and divide it with the number of values. So as you can see here, for production cost, after I plus all the 30 value and divide it with 30, I'm gonna get 49.67, while for profit margin, I get 24.77. Therefore, the mean of production cost million is greater than the mean of profit margin, which is 49.67 is bigger than 24.77. So next, I'm going to continue with median, which is the value in a data set when the values are arranged in ascending or descending order. If there is an even number of observations, the median is calculated as the average of the two middle value. So as you can see here, for production cost, since the number given were 30, which means it is even number, so there is two middle value, which is 43.7 and 48.8. I will plus both of those number and divide it with 2, and then I get 48.8. So as you can see here, with the amount of production cost spent by 30 company, the median is the average of observation of 15 and 16 position. Therefore, the median is 48.8 million, which means there are 15 production costs that are less than 48.8 million, and then there are also 15 others that cost more than 48.8 million. while for profit margin, I get 25.5%. As you can see here, with the amount of profit margin made by 30 company, the median is the average of observation of 15 and 16 position. Therefore, the median is 25.5%, which means there are 15 profit margin that less than 25.5%, then there are also 15 others that more than 25.5%. So lastly, for mode, which is the value that appears the most in a dataset. So for production cost, I get 36.2 since it appears the time at 11 and 12 position. While for profit margin, there are 6 modes, which is 21.2, 22.1, 23.3, 26.3, 27.6, and 30.0. So, this percent appears twice, which means the value appears most often. The mode 21.2 at position 6 and 7, mode 22.1 at position 8 and 7, mode 23.3 at position 11 and 12, mode 26.3 at position 20 and 21, mode 27.6 at position 23rd and 24th, and lastly for the mode 30.0 at position 27 and 28. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next my part is part 3. The part is calculate and compare measure of this position between the two key performance indicator. First of all, calculate of the percentiles for production cost. You can ask, the formula is LP equals open brackets and plus 1 closes bracket, P divide 100. N is a total number of observation in the data set. P is percentiles, for example 25, 15 and 75 percentiles. So let's get to find quarter 1, 2 and quarter 3. First, to find quarter 1, just enter the data into the formula. For example, L to 5 equals open brackets 13 plus 1 closes bracket, to 5 divide 100. So we get 7.75 observation. Next step is 7 observations. The value we got early, we plus 0.75 opens bracket, 8 observations minus 7 observations closes bracket. So the answer for quarter 1 is 26.45. For second quarter is quarter 2. Calculate the same as before, just enter the data into the formula and the answer is 46.25. Lastly, quarter 3, the answer is 67.7. So to make block spot, we need 5 data, minimums, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 and maximum. Next, outliers for production cost, just calculate IQR, lower bound and upper. So the answer IQR is 41.25, lower is negative 35.425 and upper is 129.575. So all values are within the range of lower to upper, therefore there are no outliers. Next, calculates of the percentiles for profit margins. The calculation method is the same as before. So the answer for quarter 1 profit margin is 21.88, quarter 2 is 25.35 and quarter 3 is 27.6. Last, outliers for profit margins. Just calculate method is same as before. The answer for IQR is 5725. Lower is 13.2775 and upper is 36.1875. So all values are within the range of lower to upper, therefore there are no outliers.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Muhammad Nazrin bin Noong Dahlan. My number matrix is BT233031148. I will explain about part 4, which is calculate and compare measure of depression between the two key performance indicators. To compare the measure of depression between the two key performance indicators of production cost and profit margins, we will calculate the following. Firstly, range. Secondly, MET. Thirdly, variance. Fourthly, standard deviation. And the last is CV. Firstly, range. To calculate the range, we need to take the maximum value minus the minimum value. For production cost, the maximum value is Malayan for Mills Berhad, which is 97.2 million, while the minimum value is Panalpina World Transport, which is 11.8 million. So, the total range for production cost is 85.4 million. While for the profit margin, the maximum value is Panalpina World Transport, which is 31.2%, and the minimum value is Malayan Floors Mills Berhad, which is 16.3%. So the total range for profit margin is 14.9%. According to the comparison of the two figures, the range of profit margins is far smaller than the range of production costs. This means that, in contrast to profit margins, production costs differ significantly between businesses. Secondly, mean absolute deviation or MAD. To calculate the MAD, we must calculate the mean. So the mean for production cost is 49.47 million. Secondly, calculate the absolute deviation. Example, the first company is Top Glove Corporation Berhad, which is the total production cost is 43.7 million minus the total of mean 49.47. Then make the negative number to positive and total all the deviation. Thirdly, for MAD, we must divide the total company like 649.54 divided by 30. In the end, the total MAD for production cost is 21.65 million. MAD for profit margin. The mean for profit margin is 24.72%. Absolute deviation for profit margin is 93.62%. In this part, we don't need to negative the positive number. We just calculate as usual. Example, 23.3 minus 24.72 equal to negative 1.42. For MAD on profit margin, 93.62% divided by 30. So, the total of MET for profit margin is 3.12%. Comparison between production cost and profit margin. Compared to profit margin, the MAD indicates that production costs have a higher average deviation from the mean. This signifies that production costs are more dispersed and varied, more throughout enterprises than profit margins. Variance for production costs. To calculate the production cost variance, we need to take the mean value. The mean value is 49.47 million. The second calculates the square deviation. Example like 43.7 minus 49.47 equals negative 5.77. Then convert the sum to the square deviation, such as negative square deviation 5.77. So, the sum after doing the square deviation, we must sum them all. All total is 18,734.76 million. For the variance, we must divide by the number of existing companies, such as 18,734.76 million divided by 30. So, the total variance for production cost is 624.49 million. Variance for profit margin. To calculate the profit margin, the calculation same like variance for production cost. Firstly, find the mean. The mean for profit margin is 24.72%. Secondly, the square deviation is negative 1.42. I got this from the calculation of 23.3 minus 24.72. After that, do the same square deviation and sum them all. So the total is 419.4 4.27%. For the last, we should divide 419.427 with 30, and the variance for profit margin is 13.98%. Comparison variance between production cost and profit margin. The difference between production cost and profit margin is significantly greater, suggesting that production costs have a greater spread among businesses than profit margin. Standard deviation for production cost and profit margin. The average variation in manufacturing expenses is around 24.99 million, while the average variation in profit margin is around 20.48%. Coefficient of variation CV for production cost and profit margin. To calculate the CV, we must divide the total of mean and standard deviation. For production cost, the mean is 49.47, divide the standard deviation 24.99. The total CV for production cost is 0.52 million, while the CV of profit margin is 0.83%. This answer from divided by mean and standard deviation. The last but not least, production costs have a moderate amount of variation in relation to their mean, as indicated by their coefficient of variation of 0.52. The profit margin, on the other hand, has more relative variability with a higher CV of 0.83. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Surat binti Abed. Today I will present my question for part 5, which is calculate and interpret measure of dispersion between the two key performance indicator of production cost and profit margin. So to calculate that, I just use the Excel and follow the step to calculate. Step 1 is calculating covariance SXY. So I'm just use covariance, which is sample covariance in Excel for this data, because the table show data for 30 specific manufacturing company in Malaysia. This is a sample of the larger performance, sample of the larger population, of all manufacturing companies in Malaysia. So I'm use the cover as for sample, because the cover as function in Excel designed to calculate a covariance for a sample of data, assuming it's a subset of a larger population. So I'm just use the formula which is equal cover, and the Excel will provide two array. For array 1, A2 colon A31 for column Y, column 1 is which is column Y for production cost, and array 2 B2 colon B31 equal to column X, which is the profit margin. So next, calculating correlation RXY. I'm just use the correl function to calculate the correlation between the two key performance indicator. I'm just use formula the correl, and the Excel will provide two array also, which is A2 colon A31 semicolon with B2 colon B31. A2 equal to column X, and B2 equal to column Y. Column X production cost, and profit margin column Y. So I'm just fill the data on the column given. So after I use all the steps for calculating the SXY and covariance and correlation coefficients RXYs, the Excel provide the covariance SXY equal to negative 186.65 and correlation coefficients RXY equal to negative 0.8965 between the two case performance indicator. So let's interpret this value. First one is the interpretation of covariance. The covariance SXY equal to negative 86.65. So it's negative. So indicating a negative linear relationship between the production cost and profit margin. This means that as production costs increase, profit margin will tend to decrease. So next, interpretation of correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient RXY equal to negative 0.68965 is close to negative 1. So suggesting a very strong negative linear relationship between the production cost and profit margin. So this confirms that as production costs increase, the profit margin decrease significantly. So that's all from me. Thank you.